If you didn't know, I'm Ricardo Wilkins, and this is Q for Teams, where we talk about all things teams and collaboration. I don't think I'll have Stacy today. If you were coming just to see her and not me, then you just got me. I'm sorry. She had a conflict today, but I'll do my best. And as always, if you're new or viewing for the first time, this is office hours. Ask me anything. Come with questions. Otherwise, I will ramble. I actually have a hodgepodge of several tips, with it, like in random order that can go through today. So we can certainly do that. But if you do have questions or comments or anything, you can come off mute, and or you can use a chat, which I will try to monitor despite not having my partner here. And in the chat, I see that, so feel free to engage at any time. But as I'm looking at the chat, I see we saw and tested town hall for one day, and then it went away. Oh, okay. So you had town hall in GCC for a second, and then it went away. So that's unfortunate. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that one, except I hope it comes back for you. And maybe I guess the comment there, in GCC, I think that rollout has been delayed or slow or whatever. So, I mean, that may sort of explain that. But yeah, I don't have a good answer for you on that. If you're wondering, if you're a commercial and wondering what we're talking about, I mean, Town Hall has been out in commercial, but in GCC, we still got that rollout going. So hopefully that comes back. And hopefully you get some good value out of that. I don't know what to say about it disappearing like that. And on you, I know you did all the tricks, in terms of signing out, signing in, all that good stuff. So I won't even ask any of that. So we'll just cross our fingers that that'll come back for you. And then I see a question about discussing polls move from MS Forms. Okay, so I'm thinking that question is, you used to do polls using forms, and now you're noticing the polls app and are interested in that. So maybe a thumbs up or something if I got that right. And
Yes,
yeah,
this is Glenn Ricardo, if I may speak for a moment.
yep.
Polls completely disappeared.
Oh,
And then, I did some research and it said, Microsoft has removed polls from MS Forms, which was the old way of doing polls, but polls were no longer in our GCC teams either. So I got huge amount of emails from my users who use polls a lot. Where's polls? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. And then we were told that polls is coming back in a week, but it will be located somewhere else and you'll access it some other way. So if you have any comment on the new way to use polls, I would appreciate it.
okay. So that sounds like a GCC specific thing, because I had not heard about a pulling and a replacing of polls in general. I'm pulling up my GCC tenant now to see what I can see here. The one we're looking at right now is a commercial tenant. So I think I've got this here. Let me pull this up here. Oh, actually, I need to do another share here. Let me stop sharing for a sec. Hit that, and go here. And so pull this guy up, and hopefully it won't make me update too much. hopefully I can do this quick. So this is I think this is asking for MFA. Yeah, there we go. It's fine. Security is key. So I'm just doing this on my mobile device. I don't know if any of you use MFA with your logins. If you don't, and we're wondering what the experience is, there you go. In order for me to finish my sign in, it asked for MFA. So that was just a little side note. Let me go into a meeting here, and I'm going to see a calendar. Meet now. So this is just to see if my GCC tenant also has polls stripped. I'm going to join here. And actually go right here. It's going slow because I just woke it up. It's a Friday and it's a demo. All that good stuff. Usually does not take this long just to open up apps. And then there's the, I think that's got to be a auto. Wait a minute, what just happened there? Oh, I don't know what that was actually. All right, so it's still open. I thought it updated itself, but there's polls there in my GCC tenant. So I don't know other people on. Okay, so I was just going to ask in the chat if other folks. I know there's lots of GCC people in this call. I see one person in the chat says polls has not disappeared for their environment. So you know that becomes the first question: is this a widespread thing, or is it specific to your tenant? I don't know if the info you got was like a roadmap item or a message center post that talked about polls going away. I mean, like I said, I haven't heard about polls going away in GCC, and there's at least one user in the chat that I'm assuming is GCC. They seem to still have polls. So if you do have it, it should be kind of where I went here at the apps and the polls area forms there as well. But it sounds like, Glenn, yours is gone right now. And if they're saying it's coming, if you saw a message saying it's coming back, but it'll be different, I mean, I can't see how it'll be much different than what we just did. I mean, as an app, it should still have its button there and its ability to use on the side, as well as its ability to use, here in the chat area where I go to that meeting that's in progress and can add a poll from there as well. So those are the places we expect to see it. So I think all I may have done to help today is just giving you a data point, maybe 2 data points, that this GCC tenant and one of your peers in the chat still has it. Maybe that's giving you some hope. But certainly don't doubt that you got a message, that your polls is going away and maybe coming back. So kind of hoping or thinking maybe that's a tenant specific, and certainly, reach out to your account team or your support specialists if you need a ticket or something for that. Might be about all I've got for you there. So I hope some part of that helps. But yes, to your question in the chat, typically in a meeting, I don't know that it's always there front and center. It's, for me, I usually do add it as an app, hit the app button and find polls there in the apps. I also sometimes do it, I think, from the chat area, the 3 dots here, the more apps, and I grab it. I think I usually do it that way. And of course, if you are preparing polls ahead of time, that's when I go over to the actual meeting itself, whether this one happens to already be in progress, but if I had scheduled this meeting, I could go on the calendar, find it, and then add the polls app ahead of time, pre-create my polls in draft mode, and then once I'm in the meeting, they are ready to launch with the polls app. I'd have a bunch of draft polls here. In fact, I'll just make a quick one. Save as draft. So I do this often. I'll do 3 or 4 that I know I need to launch throughout the meeting. They're here in draft. Nobody can see them until I hit launch. And I can still edit them ahead of time as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I do ahead of time, is prepare them or do them on the fly, but they don't get seen until you launch. So yes, 3 ways I think I just showed there for getting it. Apps button here, apps button in chat, and apps button over in the chat area. So I hope that helped. Yeah. And then you mentioned forms. Certainly forms was the old way of doing it before we got a more polished polls app, which displays it very nicely. But in a pinch, some folks may decide to use forms, which you could make a quick form on the fly. Now, I wonder if is this what you saw? So the polling experience for Forms app will soon be deprecated and functionalities will be disabled. In the meantime, you can. I'm wondering if, Glenn, is this the message you saw?
Yes.
Okay. So the way I'm reading this is that for those who were still using Forms, instead of polls being the newer experience, people were still using Forms. And I think this is saying your workaround of using Forms in a meeting instead of the true polls app, it sounds like that's going away. I would say in many ways for the better, because polls is just a better experience for that. So that's how I'm reading this. Let's see, you can install the polls app in the top tab to access the previously created polls from Forms app within the same meeting or create new polls. So yes, I think this is really just saying Forms as your polls, as your meeting polls app is being deprecated in place of the true polls app, which you should have access to in GCC or any tenant. So hopefully that helps. That's a much better story than the whole functionality going away entirely. I can't right now even think of a thing that Forms would have an advantage over polls for taking a poll in a meeting, other than maybe a longer, more elaborate form. But in theory, that's not as appropriate in a meeting space to have somebody fill out 10 questions during the meeting versus 1 or 2 quick ones. So yes, Forms was the old way. I see that in the chat. Yep. So yes. So I'm glad we got to that. I think that's hopefully a better thing for you. And so your users who are concerned, hopefully now you can just let them know their ability to do questions in meetings isn't going away. It's just changing from what they were using, and hopefully for the better. Hopefully once you show them polls, they'll be happy campers again. And you can refer them to this video for those different ways of actually opening the polls if they're unfamiliar with that. So cool. Kind of went around the horn on that one, but I think we landed in the right place ultimately. So good stuff. And I appreciate the other folks in the chat who are chiming in, helping out with what your experience is. So good deal. So yeah, if you're new and you're wondering how this whole thing works, bring your question. You just saw it, right? I mean, you bring your question here. We just talk through it on the fly and we just help each other out with it. So if you got any other questions, feel free to use chat, come off mute, very informal, all that good stuff. While I'm here in a meeting, some of the random tips I was going to talk about, and actually let me switch over here to this guy. Nope. Where is that? There we go. And go here. So let's go to Teams and let's open a meeting. These are small things, but I'm mentioning them just because if you blink, you might miss it. I don't know that these got major announcements or not. I'm going to start up a meeting here. Actually, no, I want to join an old meeting. So let's just imagine I was just joining a new meeting. This thing here, and I don't know if this hit GCC yet, but you've got your meeting here and you've got this up here where it shows my name and it says change. Now, this is related to, this whole being in multiple tenants that we've talked about in the past. And in fact, let me kill that and go up here. You can see I have multiple accounts and can add even more. That's one of the features of new Teams, the ability to add multiple work accounts, as well as I think one personal account, if I got that right. And now that I've got multiple accounts in here, the ability to switch between them is key. And we talked about in previous sessions how this happens very, very quickly. So those days of it taking 20 seconds to switch over are over. But now that we do have multiple accounts, there was a point in time in which joining a meeting would default, I believe, to, if I was joining your tenant as a guest, it would default to my guest account in your tenant, which probably 90% of the time is the right choice. However, I think I told a story to you all way back when where that choice had an embarrassing effect for me, in that the tenant I was joining was trying to kind of have a pre-meeting before the other non-tenant people joined. Because I was a guest and they allowed guests to bypass the lobby, I got into the middle of this kind of private conversation and kind of had to get myself out of there. Had I been able to change to my external tenant, that would not have happened. So I'm probably one of the few people who really felt that default join change just because of my traumatic experience. But this update fixes that. While it may still default to me going as the guest user in their tenant, I could change it. I could say, well, no, I don't want to join as a guest. I want to join as external. And there could just be different reasons for that, or I could just join whatever other accounts that I may have. So I do like that. Even joining without signing in, I'm trying to think through when I would want that other than the anonymity, but to me, that's a welcome change. So I see that's new for some folks in the chat. So I just wanted to call that out. I think what's coming, if it's not already there, and this may actually be a part of the same feature, is also being able to see how many people have already joined the meeting. I used to do that. I used to kind of monitor if you came in the chat. A lot of times the bubbles would start to appear here, and I believe they still do. And I would, at least, depending on the meeting, I would sometimes wait for one or two bubbles before I join. I don't like joining and being by myself in the meeting. So I used to monitor this area, but it's nice now that as I'm beginning to join to get that info here as well. It's also, you get the title of the meeting and all that good stuff. So small little feature. I thought I'd point that out. And then while we're talking about meetings, let's see here, go to my notes. So sharing, if I share, let's share a screen here. Let's just share this guy. You will notice that we're used to our windows minimizing. We have a different minimizing window here now, and it would look even cooler if I had other users in this meeting, particularly with their video on, because this will give me 3 or 4 video feeds in a long when but long but minimized window, plus this, as you can see, what the stuff that I'm sharing, and then my typical buttons up here. The goal there being, if you're going to have this window minimized, at least you get to still see the faces and engage with the folks who are at least speaking or have their video on. So I can, in theory, share while still seeing some folks on video. Now we know, because we're Teams champion users, we could always, of course, just unminimize this window and get the full. Where'd it go? Get the full. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Full screen back with all of the video feeds, the chat. I mean, that minimized experience is not required for sharing. But for those that don't do that or do want the small window while they share, it's got a little more enhanced. I do still today hear so many people presenting, saying, they'll do their presentation and then they'll say, I can't see the chat, so I don't know what questions just happened and things like that. So that one day, if this could have maybe the chat bubbles or something, that might be cool. To have a nice slim thing on the side that is showing a few faces and maybe some chat bubble messages that could be useful. But again, those folks who did want to monitor chat, I would think, what I would typically do is have that chat open and then have my shared content in a smaller window. Certainly if you're sharing your whole desktop, that's a challenge, but put it in a smaller window. I could still see chat. That's how I would do it, or use multiple screens. And same for, somebody would ask, well, what about if I'm doing a PowerPoint and I'm sharing full screen? If I needed to monitor chat, I just wouldn't share full screen. But we champions know that I could get the same experience of that full screen slideshow presentation by, instead of choosing the this guy here, we choose this guy here, which would then give me full slideshow mode while in a small window that I could move around and just share this window, and then I could still see chat. So these are all things I could do if I just had one monitor and was trying to get the most bang for my buck. Obviously, if you got multiple monitors, this is less of an issue. But that reading mode is how I often do presentations, without having to go full screen. So that was a lot of info packed into one little tip there. Let me see. Let me stop sharing. See, I did want to talk about that new sharing experience. And then the last thing about that sharing, when someone is sharing, and I couldn't show it here, but you probably notice you get the pop out button over here on the far left. That's good for putting the shared content on another screen for sure. But again, it is also good if you want to keep looking at the faces of the attendees versus the shared content and then the faces, going down the side. Because these days, when we now have in view this ability to set like our gallery size to 49 people and prioritize video and all this cool stuff, it'd be a shame to then just only get 2 or 3 faces while you're looking at shared content. At least that's me. I like to look at the content, but I also like to see everybody that has chosen to turn their video on. So you can pop the content out, and now this window becomes the video feeds. And in another window is your shared content, along with, if you have live captions on, that would be at the bottom of that content. So certainly good for a multiple monitor, but if you got a little bit of real estate, it's also good to just, even if you want to just switch back and forth between looking at the content and looking at the people. So maybe that's a tip for all of us people watchers, I guess. So yeah, I did want to make mention of that. I had other tips, but we're running short on time. I'll ask, I'll remind you again, if you've got question about anything I've talked about, any other questions, again, come off mute, put it in chat. I am able to monitor that here on the side. I think one more I can do that's really a teaser because the full functionality is not yet released at all. Let's get out of this. You may have heard about, where is it? Places. And as I click on Places, you can see it's in preview. You can see even in this tenant, I don't have it. What Places is a functionality for helping to share with your team members where you're working any given day. We are in this hybrid or work from home environment. So to be able to specify whether I'm in the office versus whether I am remote. And if I am in the office, and my company has maybe a campus of buildings, which building am I in? Which desk in the building am I in? Things like that. So that is coming. That's in preview. You may be in an org that is participating in the preview. In this tenant, it does not have that. But the teaser is that if you go into Outlook, you've got a piece of Places, or at least a functionality that Places will use once it's fully rolled out to you. When you come into your calendar and you look at these items here, these are, if you've ever clicked on these are your ability to say whether you are, your ability to configure your work plan, as it says here. And you can decide whether you're in remote or in the office. And other users can see this info when they're looking at your profile. When Places is implemented for you, and I do have an environment where I could show this if you guys are interested in this for a future session. Maybe put a +1 in the chat. But when this is implemented and you choose Office, right now I only get a new icon. I only get this. But when Places is fully implemented, I actually get a list of buildings. So I'm in the office. Which building are you in? And there's a whole lot of other functionality related to that Places feature. So at a minimum, if you think Places is in your future for your org, start getting used to changing this as appropriate, because this is like step one for everybody making the most use out of Places. When it's fully implemented, everybody's going to want to come in and change and update their work plan appropriately. And what you'll magically see is if two of us have on Thursday chosen to be in the office and in the same office, we'll get some additional functionality throughout our Microsoft services now that the system knows we are both in the same place that day. We're not putting GPS tags on everybody. We're just using the information you are opting in for here. So, yeah, if there's an interest in that, I can certainly find my demo tenant with that implemented and show that. So I just thought I'd give a little teaser for that, especially if you are looking at these and never really knew what they were for. So hopefully that helps. So, yeah, we're at time here. I hope that was useful. Come back and see us. The summer's full of vacation times and whatnot. So continue to check the page on aka.ms/Qt4Teams to see when the next one is. I think it might be in 2 weeks, but it might be 3. I think the next one might be like July 12th because of the holiday coming up, stuff like that. So just pay attention to the website for the next session. Cool. So I hope that was helpful, and yeah, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next time.